Hey guys, kinggath here, and in this guide we're going to go over how to customize plots. Now, as always with these videos, I'm going to start off by saying two things. One is that if you prefer to read the information, or you're looking for somewhere to quickly look things up without having to scrub through videos, check out the wiki at wiki.simsettlements2.com, which should have all of this information and more. And the second thing is that if I ever mention a mechanic or system that isn't to your liking, definitely check out the City Manager holotape in-game, or if you've got MCM, check our Sim Settlements 2 MCM menu. Most of the systems in SS2 are very, very customizable. So when you're looking to customize a plot, you're going to do it from the ASAM sensor. And this is the little gadget that's sitting out in front of the plot. If you built an interior plot, it will be mounted on one of the walls, depending on the building plan. If you come to this sensor and click activate, you will be presented with a menu which has a lot of information. Now, we're not going to cover all of it in this video, so more of it will be covered in an advanced video, but we are going to go over some of the things that most of you will like to use in order to customize a plot. So the most important aspect of a plot from a visual standpoint is going to be what's called the building plan, and that's the visual details of what you see. That's the actual structure, that's the furniture inside, etc. All of that combined is called the building plan. And you can actually directly choose the building plan rather than letting settlers choose at random by clicking the Choose Building Plan option. And this will generate a list of all of the building plans you have installed, whether they're provided by SS2 or by add-on packs, and then you'll be able to directly select the one you want. So you've got a few options here. The first thing up there is random. So if you just don't like the one that the settler chose, you can force them to choose a new one. Then we've got the class selection, which I'll explain on another plot that has more classes available. And then after that, you've got the individual building plans. Now we start each one in the name with the place that you've got it from. So in the little brackets there, most of the add-on packs will have created their own little short code so you can see where it came from. So if you were to remove that add-on, which we don't recommend ever removing a mod in a playthrough, but if you were to remove one, you would know what ones you were going to lose. For those building plans that come with our chapters, instead of saying SS2, it will say SS2C2 or SS2C3. And for those that come in extended, for those of you on PC, you should see an SS2E for extended. And then each of the add-on packs from community authors will have their own little extension. In addition to that, it will tell you the name of the building plan and who created it, so you can see the author there. Then in the center of this screen, you will see a rotating icon that represents the building. This is generally going to be the model of the level 1 building without its decorations. So it'll be very bare bones, but you'll get a rough idea of what it is just to quickly identify it. If you actually inspect this, you can see the color version. And if you ever get one that doesn't have this preview model, it may be that it's technically impossible for the type of building they designed. Some folks like to use a very simplified mesh to reduce the file size for the sake of Xbox players. So if you find one that's missing a preview, it may be due to a technical limitation of the engine. Then below that icon in the middle, you have the class. So you can see in brackets there, it says single person home. And below that is a short description that is created by the author to explain what it is that you're about to build. Often those are just phrased from the perspective of the design. If you want information about the class, that you're going to find on the actual class record, and that will tell you some of the mechanics that are based on the class. Most of the mechanics that are to deal with plots in Sim Settlements 2 are going to come from the class, not from the actual building plan. Generally, the building plans are going to have two things that they change for you. One is going to be the actual visual design, and the second will be how many settlers they support, as plots can technically support virtually unlimited amount of settlers up to what the engine can handle on your particular system. So the building plans, you're mostly likely going to be looking for a description of what it does, but on occasion they will have more people involved. Obviously, in the single person home for residential, that's not the case, but most of the other classes will support multiple people, especially on the other plot types such as commercial or agricultural, etc. So once you find one you like, you simply buy it from this menu and click accept and confirm the trade. And when you exit the menu, this building will demolish itself shortly. So watch out for a big explosion. It's going to surprise you, and it might take just a moment. Now, if you do have SS2 Extended installed, we'd have custom explosions for most of the building models. Not all of them make sense to have explosions like these. Some of the meshes are not complete, and that is just the way that Bethesda designed some of those meshes, but you will find that a lot of them do have full partial destructibility, but not all. And if they don't, they will just have a random explosion. So you can turn off that explosion. As I mentioned, a lot of these things can be turned off. Next, you'll be asked to confirm to pay for the cost, because you do need to pay to build up again. If you happen to change the building plan before it's reached its level, so in the middle of construction, you will be refunded for the previous cost. So you don't have to worry about losing costs if the settler starts building and you did intend on customizing it yourself. And then it will begin construction of the next building plan. So customizing the building plan is the most common way to customize. Let's head over to a commercial plot where you can see more of the classes in action. So if we go back to our choose building plan option here, you'll notice that there are a lot more classes here, and these will better illustrate what you would be getting when you choose a class. So often when you're building in some settlements too, you're going to be more concerned with the functionality, and most of the functionality, as I mentioned, is tied to the classes. So you can actually just choose a class, for example, the type of shop you're looking to get or the type of industrial production you're looking to get. Choose that class, and it will randomly select from all of the building plans that match it that you have installed. Now, in SS2 and its expansions by default, we tend to only have one building plan of each class. So if you're looking for additional visual options, you'll want to grab some add-on packs. Now, one exception to that, where you will find that there are some additional options built right into the base mod or into SS2 Extended, are the skins. So if we activate the ASAM sensor once again and we go down to customize plot, this will give us some more detailed options that you can use to customize a plot. The first up is building skins, and building skins are basically alternate art for the same structure. So they will often be things like material swaps, but they can sometimes be additional or alternate decorations. So for example, you may unlock a custom skin for a particular character where the decorations will be designed to match that character's personality. You'll especially unlock these from our characters that you meet throughout playing the story content. So if you come to the skins, note that it does take a little bit for the skin system to find all of the options, because there are so many skins registered even in the base mod. Again, particularly if you have SS2 Extended installed, that it will take a minute to generate that menu. Now, these are all chosen at from random already. So when you first choose a building plan, it will choose a skin at random, with the exception of those that are tied to certain characters. Those will be explicitly chosen when those characters are assigned. But any of these that are more generic, they can be randomly chosen from, or you can choose one directly. You can also opt to remove the skin, which will switch the building plan back to its very original design without any material swap or custom decorations. So those are your options here, and you use it just like selecting a building plan. If we select it from here and hit accept, it will switch that over shortly. Now, building skins do not cost any additional resources, as these are just an art swap, and it is designed to be a quick way for you to customize things and make it more to your liking. And there you go, we get our nice little paint job swap, and you can do that to any of the building plans that have it supported. There can be brief moments where things appear to go away and reset, and that is just the previous model hiding and replacing itself with this new one with the different material. The next thing you might want to change about a plot is the foundation. So if you built one of the workshop objects that has foundation in the name, you would notice shortly after it builds a flat surface underneath the plot. So that way the building model itself isn't left feeling like it's floating on the very uneven terrain of your settlements. And you can actually swap that out for free. So if we go to our ASAM sensor and go down to customize plot, there is a change foundation option, which will bring up a similar menu to what I've shown you so far. And here you can choose a different foundation, and it will instantly swap it over to that new foundation type. And these are not limited by plot type. So for example, if we want to use one of the dirt terraformers, which are our name for the foundations that actually spawn the little extra edges on them that default for agricultural, you don't just have to use them for agricultural. We could use them, for example, on a residential plot, a commercial, etc., and it will work the same way. A few seconds after the base dirt block appears, it will spawn the little smoothed edges around the plot. And the reason it does this is because if you were to snap multiple plots together that used a terraformer, it would be smart enough to not cover up the matching edges. So for example, if we had another plot snapped right here, it would not spawn these three pieces that represent this edge, so that they are not overlapping and causing Z fighting. So you can customize the foundation on all the plots, and in the same way you can do the power pole. You can actually change out the power pole from a similar menu down on customize plot, and we can choose a different power pole for it. There's a lot of different options to choose from, and again, this is a free thing you can use, and it will spawn in a new power pole because the plots are all radial powered. Now, one thing to note, power is an exception in the mod where we cannot get rid of the previous one, and that is because it can create grid corruption. So if you've been around the Fallout scene for a while, and particularly Sim Settlements 2 scene, you've heard of power grid corruption. This is a base game engine bug, and one of the ways we avoid it is anything that involves power, we do not scrap it directly inside of code. Instead, we leave it there for you, the player, to do. So anything that can have a wire connected to it can create grid corruption if it's not scrapped properly in workshop mode. So the old one will be left there. That is intentional to prevent this corruption, because it can eventually cause your save to just not work correctly, or to end up with constant crashing inside of your settlements. So if you see that extra pole appear, that is by design. Since we're discussing defaults, I'm going to show you guys a little bit more of an advanced system. Now, this system is only really useful to those of you on PC who've collected a lot of add-on building plans. Because there are so many created by the community, you can end up with thousands of choices, and it can get overwhelming to individually select the building plans. But maybe you have a general aesthetic you're going for in a particular settlement or across the board in all of your settlements, and we have a system for that. So if you build yourself a city planner's desk, which we will have a dedicated video to this in the future, this can be found under the Sim Settlements menu under Furniture. When you build one, a various set of options will appear, and one of them is set up themes on building plans. And if you click on this, you'll get this little sub menu. Now, every building plan, whether it be provided by SS2, extended, or add-on packs from the community, will have tags kind of roughly describing what it is that that building plan looks like. And so if you go to Settlements Theme here, you can select a variety of tags that you like, and from then on, settlers will default to only choosing buildings that have that tag applied to them, or have one of those tags. So for example, let's say I want things that are lore friendly, I prefer scavenged junk look, but I'm also okay with wood and metal. But I don't want anything aluminum, rusted metal, bright colors, or nautical themed. I can now accept these, and from then on, only building plans that have at least one of these tags will be chosen by default. Now, there is an exception to that. If the settlers cannot find a building plan that matches the plot type, they will choose from the entire pool. So if you don't have a ton of building plans installed, this is not going to be particularly useful, because you will occasionally run into situations where none of the building plans you have installed will match any of your chosen tags. Now, this first menu here, this is universal. So this means that across all your settlements, they will acknowledge these. If you instead only want to do it to the current settlement you're standing in, you're going to go to local settings, and it will have the same settlement theme option there. So you can select tags for this particular settlement. So going back to the theme, we had a nautical option. Perhaps you're building Spectacle Island, you like all the nautical themed buildings, and you'd like the settlers to prefer those. You can choose that as one of your theme tags. Then on the opposite side, we have blacklists, and these will let you prevent settlers from choosing a particular set of tags, individual building plans, or skins. So let's say, for example, you don't like the brightly colored options. You can choose that tag and blacklist it. Or if you don't like a particular plan, perhaps you don't like the art style, or you feel like it's unimmersive, you can blacklist that plan. And the same applies to the skins. And you basically, these menus all look the same as what you're used to, where you're going to get a big barter screen with all the different options, and you can basically trade away the ones you want. So this, for example, is for me to blacklist building plans for the commercial type. I could say I don't ever want to see this particular clothing store here, put this in the menu, and now that one will never be chosen because there's plenty of other options. Now again, if I had chosen all of the options to where everything was blacklisted, it's just going to ignore the blacklist. So that can be a powerful feature for those of you who have a lot of stuff installed. All right, the last thing I'm going to show you guys are a few other options for how you can access the ASAM menu, because occasionally you'll find that you can't access the sensor for some reason or another. Perhaps you built two things overlapping each other, or the building plan went a little bit excessive in its space usage and the collision is blocking. This can especially happen with interior plots, where perhaps you're using something like Place Everywhere and you buried the plot into the wall a little bit, and maybe you can't access the ASAM sensor. So another option you have is to look to the floor area of the plot, and you'll see an activate option come up, and that will relay your activation over to the ASAM sensor so you get the same menu. You can also activate this by going into workshop mode and scrapping the ASAM sensor. This is a little trick we came up with to get access to the menu from within the workshop mode, and it will just spawn a new ASAM sensor, so you can get access to it without ever leaving workshop mode if you prefer. That should cover most of your options for customizing plots. I think the only thing that we didn't really get into deeply is add-on packs themselves. Just note that if you dig around on Nexus or on Bethesda.net, you will find lots of things calling themselves add-on packs for Sim Settlements 2. There are tons of community-created options that can greatly expand your options for customizing all the various things I just showed you regarding plots. Keep an eye out for additional videos. There's still more to cover on plots and lots more to cover on the various mechanics and systems in Sim Settlements 2. But with all that, take care and enjoy the mods.